Obviously, today's kind of our last full-speed practice. We'll go through our walkthrough tomorrow. It's nice to get back on a normal week schedule and jump into it. Super excited to have a great team coming in, a ranked team. Obviously, the announcement of the crowd being what it's going to be, couldn't be more excited, not just for our players, but for our fans, right? I know to get a 6 o'clock kickoff kind of makes everybody a little bit happy and put themselves in a great position. Overall, team health-wise, we got everybody that played in the game last week and carry forward in this week. T-Strain has practiced from Tuesday on, so he's been with us all week and expect him to play. The only guy that could be questionable is Goda at the tight end position. He just had a soft tissue. He may be a game time decision, but he really would be a guy that would be a down the line guy for us overall. So super excited about the opportunity. And with that, open up for questions.
This is what you kind of had in mind, right? When you came here, didn't you want to sell out crowds against the right team? This is kind of the dream for
Well,
you?
great point, but I think the vision of what I think most people think coming in is against Big Ten ranked opponents, right? So
Right.
to play an unranked or to play a ranked non-conference opponent at this time of schedule is just really pretty rare, right? Even in my coaching career, being in this league as long as I have been, right? We had some ranked opponents early on. We had Fresno State jumps to mind. I believe there was another opponent that we had ranked in the top 20, but when this schedule was created, right, back in the day, Kansas was in a different place, Illinois was in a different place. They probably threw these two teams together thinking two conferences that are going to be good matchups, and obviously there's been a change in both programs, so thankfully for the better, and super excited to see where it goes.
Brett, on that point though, I know it doesn't put any points on the scoreboard on Saturday night for you, but is there a sense of accomplishment that you're feeling around the department and around the campus that it's a
Honestly, if our people didn't tell us, I wouldn't know it, right? Unless the Starbucks girl at 5:30 tells me something, I don't really talk to anybody else outside the people in my house, right? So I think it is awesome. I think our kids talk, obviously, on campus. I'll tell you one thing that was awesome last week for me, Thursday night game, and to have a student section that went into 2 overflow sections and to have that energy. I think no matter what, any place I've ever been, the teams that feed and interact with the student section have always been really positive throughout my entire career, even as an assistant, as a player, right? Because they have the most connection with their student athletes. But to have a crowd that I think we're going to have on Saturday night, looks like great weather, might bring your jackets. It's going to be a little bit different than I think than most people expected. When I start seeing temperature in the 60s and 50s at kickoff, it's kind of crazy to think about, but it's going to be something I think special for everybody.
What did you think about the energy at practice this week? Did you like what you saw from your players?
Yeah, I thought our coaches, especially, we go back, we watch film in the morning, we go into about a 2 or 3 hour break, and then we come back and I never interact with the coaches during that time frame. I want them to tell me what they saw because I see certain things. And I would say overall, the coaches paid our kids a lot of compliments on Tuesday and Wednesday. Just talked about the intensity of the practice, the physicality, just the demeanor of our students, of our athletes. That I think is noticeably different from a year ago. And I'm excited. Obviously, one of the greatest things I saw last week was the team that I saw practice to prepare for Eastern Illinois was the team that I saw show up, right? And that's your biggest mission as a coach is to always see what you saw at practice carry over to the game field, and hopefully those things are going to carry forward.
Do you feel like the difference was from Kansas last year compared to Kansas this year? Is that what you were mentioning?
No, I'm just talking about the way we're practicing right now. I really like the way, even going back to last spring, through spring practices, I get it, we're playing Kansas this week, but next week we'll play Central Michigan, and next week we'll play Nebraska, right? So to get a routine about how you practice, the game plan is going to change and the focus is going to change, but the way you execute and the way you do things probably should be too different each week.
Is it a different challenge to emulate Jalen Daniels and their other high skill players with your scout team?
Yeah, I think last week we were practicing a team that had a quarterback that sat in the pocket, threw it around, kind of dinked and dunked, and did a really good job. Trey Petty did that. We actually had Donovan Leary do certain things during the look team stuff this week with Jalen and the skill set that he brings. Obviously, Trey Petty has really done a nice job emulating that. He worked versus the whole defense, ones and twos. He always stayed in there, did us a really nice service. I thought our look team yesterday, inside drill in particular, the run drills on Tuesday and Wednesday were really, really good. They have a new offensive coordinator, and he's a guy that's an O-line background, so we know the emphasis that he has in the run game, and obviously Jalen brings a skill set with those wide receivers that we got to be able to defend everything.
But you watch Matt pre-snap, you get a lot of Sid flashbacks just in the way they move and
Matt Bailey?
they move and try to confuse. Why is he good at that? Why is he able to? Do
two things. Matt's an extremely intelligent player. When you watch him on high school film, he literally was playing corner, then safety, then wide out, and He played a variety of different positions, and I think those kids that come from even a guy like Tanner Heckel, Mac Rusetich, guys that play multiple positions in high school, that gives their football IQ and awareness a different level. And Matt, since he got in here, has been a guy that talks very, very well. He don't say a lot off the field, but I think, honestly, I text Sydney and Chase this morning. We just ironically had both the Philadelphia scout and the Cincinnati scout in yesterday, and I was talking to them, and the Philly scout mentioned that nobody has ever rehabbed with the intensity and the results that match what Sidney Brown has done with the Eagles. And I think about Matt Bailey here, right? Like, who went through an intense year of being away from it, first with a foot, then with a shoulder, and some limitations, and he has maximized every opportunity. There was nobody that I was more excited for last Thursday night than Matt Bailey, just to see him out there, his demeanor, his presence. He's a tremendous kid of faith, an incredible representation of our program, and he really truly gets it. You can hear him always on the field, no matter what. I don't care if it's a walkthrough, if it's full speed live action. He's a guy that's trying to get the best out of everybody.
I guess just broadly, how personnel differences, Brett, coaching differences for you guys, but how, if at all, is there like a broad theme of how you're different at this time now versus where you were a year ago?
Is it a what team?
Is there like a broad theme of like maybe how you guys are different as a team now versus a year ago? Like, I know you have personnel and coaching.
Yeah. Well, I think anybody that saw us really in an evolution of where we've been from year one to where we are now. Obviously, going into a third year with Barry, I think is a huge thing offensively. Defensively, there's transition that we really have had every year, but obviously, I think a year ago to have certain personnel in place that we felt strong about, and the year before, a certain look from the defensive back end like forward. The defense has changed and evolved. The offense has. I think Dish in the special teams world, we've definitely changed some of the rhythms, but overall, I still think we should be a team that's tough, smart, dependable. And now I will say there's been a huge emphasis to have those values carry forward. I think we maybe, in one retrospect thing I looked at a year ago, is we just saying those things or we being those things, right? And your DNA has to match who you are. And I think our guys really have embodied that. Like, anything we say, and then things that we say as coaches a lot of time are regurgitated with our players, and that's truly when you have a team that's listening to you, that's a team that usually plays well, and they've done that.
What'd that look like to hammer those ideas home? Like, how did you emphasize that this all?
Yeah, a little bit of everything starts with me as a head coach. If you walk into our building, one of the first things on our doors walking in is to do your job. Third thing is be here. So yesterday I had an example where I walked into a meeting and I was frustrated by what was going on somewhere else in the building, and that affected me in that meeting, right? And I shared that with them today. I said, hey, as a head coach, one of the things that we constantly look to do is, we got to learn from you, you got to learn from us. And it was a little thing, but it was a big thing to me. And I think humility to your players, right? Like, I wanted a point of emphasis for them to see it in that specific time, and I think the message got across, but I wanted to bring attention to it. So it's a little bit of everything. I would give a lot of credit to our leadership council. A year ago, we had a leadership council that I called the Illini Council, but I switched the name in January, and we elected a representative at every position, and then there's 3 floaters, so guys that are transfers, which is Dennis Briggs, guys that are walk-ons, which are Ryan Mead, and then we also had a freshman representative, which is Brandon Hanson. So there's a couple of things happened last week. A little thing, Brandon Hanson, who's an incredibly gifted, talented young man who I think the last 2 weeks has really come on. On our way to our Friday night, well, it was Wednesday night, but our night before meal, we usually have a prayer from a player, or if Jason Epperson is there, and B. Hanson hit me up and he's like, Coach, can I have prayer? And I'm like, okay, let me check to make sure. So I went over there and I said, hey, you got it if you want it. And he stood up and he gave a message through a prayer that was thought out, diligent, but also personal. And like, literally, you're not supposed to prayer and clap, I guess, but our guys went crazy after that. And then just a little thing on Saturday that's a big thing in my opinion. Caden Fagan, was on offense scoring a touchdown and comes out and covers a kick. Like, I know I said it the other day in the press, but that's like monumental stuff, right? When that happens, Pat Bryant run down. When they challenged and reviewed the score that went in, Caden Fagan ran the ball in and then had to run down to the kickoff, then ran the ball in and then ran down the kickoff, and then Josh McCray said, hey, let me take this rep. So his backup on offense jumped into his backup on kickoff coverage, which you get that kind of stuff going, man, like that's cooking with grease.
Is there anything extra about this game, just knowing the performance from last year? What's that feeling inside that locker room?
Yeah, I think anytime you have a rematch game, those things are big. But as far as anything extra, if you don't have your radar up for a ranked opponent coming into Memorial Stadium in a non-conference environment, that you get to represent our conference and put ourselves in front of a crowd like this, there is a factor of last year and the fact that we get familiarity with them and guys have an understanding of who some of these guys are going against, the same people they did a year ago. And obviously, hopefully everybody, offense, defense, special teams, and coaches want to perform better than we did a year ago. But I think that's probably small apples compared to the big apples of what we're in.
I mean, Caden has obviously the physical skills, but like for him to, be a lead blocker, be on kick coverage, like what growth have you seen from him, maybe as an overall football player?
Well, I think if you saw that play with Aiden Lawford running behind him, right, and just like Caden Fagan is one of the more complete players I've been around in my recruiting career and coaching and development. Just like his size, his physical development, his demeanor, his just the way Mom raised him, like the whole community down there, I think really kind of put their arm around him. And this kid had been a legend for a long time. And sometimes when that happens, kids believe a little bit more than what is real. And this is the most humble, humility driven, hungry, and I keep gassing him up and stressing to him, go take this, right? Go be you. And I think we're on the verge of making that happen.
In terms of your offensive line, Bart had said he feels really good about number 6, number 7, number 8 down the line in his group getting in, and it does. I think a lot of layman people think, well, that's the 5 that are going to play in case there's an injury, but you guys really rotate guys.
Well, you take a guy like Hunter Whiteneck, guy that's played a lot of good football for us. I think you'll see more of him. There's no doubt in my mind that the evolution of Brandon Henderson, who kind of plays multiple positions for us, and kind of see where it's at. But yeah, I get where Bart's coming from. I want our 5 that are in there to play well, but I think the more depth you can provide and, getting some big personnel, maybe 8, 9 offensive linemen on the field, like kind of some of the stuff we've done in the past, like there's an element there to build a whole package around that I think is exciting for us.
Coach, a couple of you guys this week said the team is calm. Have you sensed that a little better?
I think calm in a good way, right? Like I don't think they get rattled. Barry said something after practice the other day that rang true to me. He said like just the purpose that we practice with, like the diligence, the attention to detail, the pace. I don't see a lot of coaches screaming about, doing things that, are self-motivated from within. We're going to make corrections. On Thursdays, one of the things we should do today is I tell all my coaches to get in a position they play from on Saturday, or they coach from on Saturday, right? So I want to hear players more and coaches less on Thursday. I stress that to the group today that they're not going to hear their coaches, because at this point I really don't care what we know, I care what they know, and to have that detail I think is something that's really big.
Guys, time for like 1 or 2 more here, guys.
I guess you alluded to it with Caden on special teams, that when you have starters who are obviously big parts of what you do on those sides of the ball, how do you kind of weigh the pros and cons of if or not to have them on special
Well, good teams make players play as much as they can to help us win, right? And I think the value of it is you're getting the reason they're a starter on offense is they're a really good player, right? So it's kind of funny, right? Like I even thought this way as an assistant coach before I became a coordinator, and then become a head coach. Somebody's a third string linebacker, and you're like, oh, he can really help us on special teams. Well, then why ain't he starting, right? Like the special teams, there's only one unit that plays. It's the first unit, right? I think the value of is to have as many big athletes. There was a study we did when the Packers went to the Super Bowl early on in my career that Ted Thompson kind of showed me that the Packers had more guys between 6'3" and 6'5", 220 to 260 pounds than any team in the NFL, right? They had more players of that roster size. And that's when the teams that I've been around have been good, is a lot of those big skill athletes that can play a lot of physical things. Tanner Arkin right now is incredible value for us as a tight end, but he's incredibly gifted on KOR, on punt, just those little moments. Same thing, all 6 of our linebackers. Luke Zardzin might be our 5th or 6th inside linebacker, but he was our special teams MVP. When you have that kind of thing happening, those are really good things.